Welcome to another episode of two teachers having a chat. And I would like to welcome Michelle Southan. And my name's Julie Lewin, and we are going to get into some juicy things today about basically living our best life, but not hiding the shadow of our life, because we all experience all of it, just like you. And so Michelle reached out to me after watching our first episode and said, I'd like to have a chat. And I thought, awesome. So we've managed to tee it up for today. And I am so looking forward to seeing what you have to say, seeing how you live your life, Michelle, and getting to know you, because I love meeting other teachers and seeing what magic you bring to the world. So why don't you introduce yourself, and then we can get into some juicy stuff.
Sure. So first of all, I want to say thank you for putting this out there to the world, because until we do that, nothing changes, does it? So you are being your own light and attracting other lights, being the beacon. But yeah, so basically, I don't know where to start, but my name is Michelle. I live in Sydney. I'm not from here, hence the accent. I'm from England, which isn't so sunny. And yeah, so there's a lot, like basically what I'm doing now, what I'm putting out to the world and helping people with is like a number of things, from helping people. It's basically empowering people in a nutshell is what I do in different ways. So it's like through my readings, I do intuitive readings, which I freaking love. And I've got a million card decks. I could open a library. Uh, and my coaching, so I help people with their relationships, because I feel personally that's like the key to it all, really, the relationships with self and others. So they're my two main areas of work type stuff. As well as I've actually done hair transformation since I was 18, so I help people with their hair to look more, feel more empowered. And it's something that I've just not let go of yet, because I still enjoy it. So there's still that. So I literally do a multitude of things. Yeah. But I'm interested to know what you do too, because like we're new to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in a medical intuitive for 39 years. My journey started exactly 39 years ago this week. And it started after a clairvoyant reading. And so I was 25 then, spent my whole adult life, my whole mum life, because my business partner and daughter Tash was 7 months old when I started on this metaphysical journey. And so along that journey, I've created a healing modality called Arakira, which we just started our apprenticeship school too. We've done 3 lessons, so 3 weeks ago. And basically, I turned 64 last week, and I said to Tash, I've spent nearly 40 years doing this work. I can't die. And I think I'm just super conscious of all the people dying in the world right now. And I said, I can't die and not have the next ripple of teachers and practitioners sharing what I've spent so long developing and creating. So I feel really, really happy to have Tash on board, because she has the skills that I don't have. She's an ex-university lecturer, so she knows how to have content and how to deliver content and how to create it. She's also a graphic designer, and so she does all of that in the background. Plus, she's an awesome teacher, and so we've merged very well together. And so we live day to day the whole principle of Arakira, and we just use those tools that I've developed with working with clients in our daily life so that we live a life that we love. Now, does that mean that we don't have shitty days? We have shitty days like everyone else in the world. And, you know, especially when I do something silly. No, I do it deliberately. I eat gluten because I shouldn't eat gluten. And I know that it actually makes me feel very unwell. But when I travel, and I traveled on the weekend to puppy sit for our son and daughter-in-law, and I said, I want a kebab. And you know, a kebab is full of salt, full of whatever, and full of gluten. And so I've just spent 3 days where I've said to my husband, I feel like I've been beaten up. Every part of me hurts. And, you know, I did that consciously, but I said to him, this time I won't do that again. And, but you know, in 6 months, I'll forget what that feeling is. And I'm sure our listeners are going, I know what you're talking about, Julie. And then you'll do it again. And then you go, oh, now I remember why I don't do that thing. But I live in a multiverse as well. And I like to do crafty things. And so actually I've been doing the other part of my life, and I'll have to change my settings so you can see.
Unblur yourself. There we
Okay.
go. Oh, wow.
So this was a dress, and I sewed doilies around the bottom.
Yeah.
And I sewed this is a top that I put over the top, and this is a doily that I cut in half, and I got some jewelry and I stitched that on down there. So
It's giving me very much gypsy vibes, that one.
I know. And so I make over clothes, or what do they call it? Upcycle.
Upcycle, yeah.
That's what I do when I sit in front of the TV with my husband at night and I'm doing something with my hands. So I like to do something creative. I like to do coaching. I like to teach our Akira. I do one-on-one medical intuition sessions. So I've developed a very strong medical intuition process, and I've been doing that. I appeared on the Extraordinary TV show in 1994. So what's that? 30 years ago next year. And basically my world blew up the next day. And
Since
I
being on
haven't,
the show.
yeah, since being on the show. So that's kind of been my development ground, is those thousands and thousands of people just saying, please, can you help? So that's been my last 40 years, really, is first of all figuring out how to see inside of people's bodies, and then what do I do with that when I see what I see or feel or know. And that's how I created our Akira.
Wow.
And then I've had it accredited with the IICT for 9 years, and I've been teaching practitioners. And then obviously COVID happened and I had to stop. And so we're just getting back into it now.
So for someone that knows nothing about that, right, and it sounds like magic, like literally.
Yeah, it is magic. Yeah.
Magic. So in a nutshell, for somebody that's clueless to what this is about, like, what would you say? How would you explain it? How it works? Like, do you intuitively see just by looking at somebody, or like?
Oh, so that's a really good question, Michelle. I originally started by imagining that I was traveling through the bloodstream or their body in a submarine, so that I was literally following that movie from the 70s where Honey, I Think I Shrunk the Kids. I think that.
I love that movie.
Anyhow, it was kind of along those lines. But that would take me like half an hour, and I like things to be quick. And so I got shorter and shorter. So I developed my own metaphysical body language. When I connected with somebody and I would feel something in my body, I learned to link that feeling with a message, if that makes sense. So if I feel like I've got somebody with their hand around my throat, that's not that person has been strangled. That's my clue for they've got something wrong with their thyroid. And so my body actually fires off a signal to me, and I understand that signal. And if I am right with the signal, my hand does this, and it's an involuntary movement, and it's basically saying move on, next. And so my whole body will fire off, and I have to catch all of the signals, and then I write all of that down, and then I talk to my client and I say, okay, so we've got a problem here. And they go, yes. And then when they confirm yes, I see the movie in my mind and I go, okay, so we'll work on that. So I go through the list first, and then we go back and we work on each thing. But I take people inside of their body. I take people inside of their holographic body, which we all have a blueprint of this vessel. There's an energy blueprint, and scientists have proven that. And so when I've discovered a way of accessing the blueprint, making changes like a computer program, and then sending that frequency back into the physical body, and people go, how did that even happen? And that's the magic of working on more than one level. Like I work with 7 bodies, Michelle: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, auric, energy, and etheric. That's what our Akira is. It's the revolutionary alignment of all of those bodies. And look, are some sessions more magical than other sessions? Absolutely. And that's just human nature. Do people have to be able to visualize to have a wow experience? No, because as the practitioner or the teacher, and I'm sure you find this, we can change our language. And some people see, some people hear, some people feel or know. And I just change my language. But what I've found is if I use the word imagine, people have their own way of imagining. And so instead of me saying, I want you to see XYZ, say, I want you to imagine XYZ. And then they describe to me what they're imagining, but I see what they see. And that's a really intimate experience where they go, how do you even know what to say next? And it's because I've trained. Yeah, it's intuition, but I see the movie. I'm watching
your
the
third
movie.
eye active as well, like
yeah. That it's a bit like being a voyeur of a computer game. They're in the computer game. I'm watching the computer game, but I can kind of like release the next level. Like I can unlock the next level and say, I want you to do this. And they do it. And sometimes I know what they're going to say before they say the next thing. And so it's a very co-creating experience. Wow experience. Yeah.
Sounds really good. And it would obviously like alleviate their pain or symptoms, would it as well?
It does, yeah. Sometimes permanently.
Yeah.
Sometimes momentarily. And if it's not permanently, I'll just say, you've learned that technique now. You go and do that yourself.
Mm.
So I'm all about
Empowering them to.
teaching people, empowering, yeah, teaching people how to heal themselves.
And would you need to be in front of the person to do this, or can you do this on a screen like now, like this?
Oh,
Or
I only, well, that's a lie. Maybe 99% of the time I do it on Zoom like this.
ah,
Sometimes I even do it on the phone, and on rare occasions people will come to my house. But
ah.
I ran away from home. When I say I ran away from home, our kids were 24 and 26. And I said to my husband, they're not going to leave. Why don't we leave? So we ran away to the country from the city, and we made a new life for ourselves. And they weren't very happy with us for about a year, but you know, they got
They
over it.
weren't 5 anymore, were they?
They weren't 5 anymore, no. So we packed our bags and we left. And so I wasn't living in the city anymore. There weren't a lot of people. We're in a little dinky country town. And I actually didn't want to set up a business here for people to locally come and see me. I just wanted to have the freedom to not be known in this town. And so I had to figure out a way of converting it all to screen, to the internet, and I did that. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome to be able to work with people all over the world. Do you work with people all over the world?
Yeah, and you know what? There's so many things I could share about myself, but because what you've just like shared is so interesting, I'm just like, can
All
you
right,
do it
well,
now?
let's explore.
Can you do it now? I'm just sat the whole time I'm thinking, can she do it to me? Yeah,
Yeah.
no. So what was your question? You were saying,
Oh, well, do you work with people all over the world?
yeah, it doesn't, because with being on like yourself online, you can help anybody anywhere as long as they can connect to Zoom, right? Or
Yeah.
the internet. So yeah. So I'm on YouTube, so people find me on there.
Yeah.
So that's obviously worldwide, and Facebook sort of like, they're all different, aren't they? But yeah, I just love to basically empower people in the various ways I do. Like yourself, I am super creative, hence where the hair side comes in, because it's very creative, hands-on.
Yeah.
And then there's the intuitive side of me, super strong intuition, that I, comes out in my readings massively, and my coaching. So really,
when you do your readings, do
yeah.
you always use cards?
So I'm starting to realize I don't need them.
Yeah.
But I do use them because I like the prompts, shall we say, and then I can expand on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think as I grow and get older and get, learn more, I believe like it's just going to be a case of let's just sit down in front of the person or on Zoom and be like, here we go.
Yeah.
I probably could do that. Yeah. Because I have a strong intuition. Like I remember once I went to an event, for example, just went to this event, and it was all about like, it was called something witchy, something or other.
Yeah.
And it was all just a random thing that I'd not been to before. And I turned up with a friend with not really much expectation other than I know there's a reason why I'm feeling, the want to come here, because I'm drawn to it for a reason. And I go in and we get chatting to the ladies instantly that are on the front desk thing, giving out the raffle tickets and all that sort of thing. And there were readers there, and there were stalls with crystals and all the interesting things. But it's just funny how things always happen perfectly divine timing, because the lady that I originally met at the front desk, I felt drawn to her, and I felt a bit of a connection energy wise. And then the next thing I know, I'm walking around this event and her sister comes up to me and said, my sister would really love a reading with you. Like, even though there's readers sat there,
Did she know you were a reader?
She did, because at the start she asked me, because I was very, like we mentioned earlier about our lights. I think we said this before we press record, but our light and our energy and how we just radiate like this feeling of just joy or alignment or whatever. And I was just feeling that in that moment, and I was very much just being open. And so she said, oh, what do you do then? And I just briefly said, you know, readings and da 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 da. And yeah, and so it was literally a 5-minute conversation, but we had laughs, like it was belly laughs over whatever and nothing. I think something silly was written on the t-shirt and I made a joke, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm just mooching around and talking to people and looking at the stalls, and then that was it. So I said, do you know what? I said, I've got my cards in the car. I said, I'll go and bring them in and we'll just do it here.
Have you
But
got
like,
any cards with you
yeah,
now?
yeah.
Because I do. Like these are my cards that
Yeah.
oh, hang on. I just have to stop that blurring thing. You
Oh
just
yeah.
have to deal with my messy
Oh, the
background.
background's nice, you know. You've got a nice background.
Oh, thank you. So these are the first cards that I created.
You
These are
created them.
yeah, I designed them and manufactured them, did everything. It took me ages. But yeah, so these are the Arakira cards. These are the magic, not logic cards. So we created, Tash and I created these. This is a deck of light codes to shift growth edge resistance. So a lot of business owners use these. And so Tash designed all the artwork. So there's different light codes. And there's a clearing and then the activation. And these all came from us working with our coaching clients. And then last year I spent the year painting a deck. So we haven't manufactured these yet, but they go with my book that I've published. But I interrupted you and I'm really sorry.
That's all right. And it
I
was
think
relevant
that
though.
we
Sometimes we
should
need to.
probably, what if I pull a card and then you do the reading based on the card? Okay.
Sure.
Knock 3 times. Okay, so this
I've not done it this way before, but yeah, let's do it.
I haven't done the you just see that a card just flew out. That's how I do it. Can you see that?
It says blessed, and
Yeah.
I see the circle, the blue, and then I
Yep.
can't read the bottom though, so maybe you can
It
read.
says blessed with courage, intuition, hope, faith, and trust.
Hey. All right, I'll give that read. Right, so that is purely, I feel, connected to this whole situation of what we're doing right now, because we didn't have a set plan of what we were going to talk about. We've got so many things we could discuss. You've got lots of interests and skills and everything going on in your life, and so have I. And I feel like that is just confirming exactly this point in time for us both. We are both truly blessed, and it's all about, you know, being in this moment and trusting the unfolding of this one thing that we're doing. And that can extend to the whole of life, and especially for me right now, it's very much a lot of change and growth, and as for us all. But yeah, I think that's just confirming this exact moment. So it's like,
Isn't that magical?
yeah. And what do the words say again? What's it written? It sounded
Blessed.
so good. Yeah, and the words at
Oh,
the
the
bottom.
words. Blessed with courage,
Yeah.
intuition,
Yeah.
hope, faith, and trust.
Yeah, because you would need courage to put yourself out there like we are doing. You need trust to trust in the process and unfolding, and remembering that we are blessed whilst we're growing and doing what we're doing and wanting to achieve X, Y, and Z. We need to stay present and know how blessed we are. Like for me, the basics like health, you know, existence, not being sick or nearly dead, you know, we're here.
Exactly.
The basics. Yeah. So
And to remember, like we mentioned earlier, that we have shitty days as well. And that we have days where we wonder why we do what we do. But I believe we both have strong faith and trust in the divine order, and that we don't lose hope. And I think hope is the most powerful commodity that we can have. If you have hope, you have everything. And so what I'm feeling is that everyone who gets to watch this video is blessed.
Yeah.
Blessed with courage, intuition, hope, faith, and trust. And to remember this moment, if you're feeling in a dark space, that this too will change.
The only guarantee we have is change, right? So
Correct. Correct. Yeah. So
and it's
have you got it? Yeah,
I've
you
got
go.
it there. Yeah, I was just going to say, adding to that and connecting it all together. Just before we did this morning, I did a quick couple of minutes, a reel, and I just, because I was sat on my balcony and I just looked up at the sun and could hear the birds and the trees, and I was just like, I'm just feel intuitively just to share a message. You know, it's not like a logical thing. And I was like, right, get your camera out. I didn't think about it. I just felt it and just started talking for a couple of minutes for a reel. And that's exactly what I sort of said was, you know, wherever you are is perfect. Don't worry about thinking that you've missed the boat or it's not going to happen, or it's like, it's just trust and believe that it's all unfolding. And I think there's a lot of people sometimes, especially with social media, that can compare themselves and see other people doing things. And it's like, no, who said you should be married with kids by 30? Who said you should be, have your house by this age or your business sorted and your clear vision all worked out? It's like, no, it's like a whole process and a journey. I think even, the KFC guy who invented the KFC chicken, how old was he?
You pulled that out of my head.
What was he, 70 or something? I don't know.
He was in his 60s. He might have been 65. But he's one of my inspirations.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
I use his story as an example quite a bit.
Louise Hay.
Louise Hay, she's a queen. She was
like 60, and I was just talking to my friend the other day, and she said, Julie, I've been through a really dark space. She said, I'm 60 and I feel like I haven't achieved anything. And I said to her, Louise Hayes was 60 when everything took off for her. And she said, you are kidding me. She said, just having this conversation with you has inspired me, uplifted me, and I have hope. And I thought, if all of our conversations can leave somebody with hope, then we're living our purpose, right?
Yes.
And
I don't know about you, but I feel like this conversation also, I actually needed to have this today. Like, I needed to hear this for myself as well as sharing it,
Yeah, that's so cool. And because it's been weeks like in the making for today, right?
Yeah, I mean, just even what you're saying is resonating so much with me and how I'm feeling and what and I think it's just, again, just there's no coincidence. Like, we've hardly spoken. We didn't, well, not even spoken.
We haven't spoken. We've just
but it
done
doesn't matter.
Minute messages on Messenger or recordings. But yeah,
well, you got to be open, open and trust that you're just going to go with it. And that's what we're doing.
We are. And I use the KFC Colonel Sanders. I use Colonel Sanders and Louise Hay as my inspiration, and I share those stories.
Oh, I love
that.
And
it's just about not giving up.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've discovered is people want to know how you cross the valley floor. They don't want to necessarily sit in the valley floor with you, but they want to know how you got through the valley floor to climb the next mountain. And when I share my stories of the difficult times, I like to share how I overcame my obstacles. To share how you overcome
all sides. Yeah.
The obstacles, and not just take someone down into the bottom of the well with you and leave them there with you, because that's not going to help them. It's not going to help you. But by having a conversation about the challenging times and sharing how you overcome challenges, that's where the magic is.
Mm-hmm.
And Tash is a great question asker. So she asks questions like, does that even belong to, oh, the recording has stopped. Okay.
My recording's still going, if that helps.
Yours is still going? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll have to get you to send it to me.
Well, so you can send me one and I'll send you the other.
Okay. So yours is still going?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She actually challenges people on their thought process.
And
she'll say, does that even belong to you?
Yeah.
Does that feeling belong to you? And then I have a think about it and I go, you know what? No.
Yeah.
She said, well, just return it to sender.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just a simple thing. And we have conversations, and I don't know whether you have these conversations, Michelle, where we think about the people that are struggling. Are they struggling with other people's stuff? And is it as simple as saying, you know what, that's not actually even mine, and returning it to sender, and then feel the light come back? Sometimes that's all I have to do.
I think it's also where our focus goes, isn't it? Like, so that, you know, there is a lot going on in the world all at once. There are relationships around us, people have issues around us, people are feeling differently stood next to us, and it's all this, whatever we focus on is how we will feel. So our thoughts become things. And I studied NLP and all that kind of, you know, stuff. Yeah. So I understand quite, you know, a lot of this. And yeah, I can agree with you totally on that. It is what we focus on. And also you said about, does that even belong to me? A lot of it, because of 0 to 7 is like that crucial age, isn't it, of being a little baby sponge and sucking up everything that our parents have dropped on us from their parents and their parents. And it's like, we are, I believe, a lot of us in this time now of just cutting that off and breaking the cycle. Because there's not been awareness around all this before, and it's all quite new, really, isn't it?
It is. Well, like when you think about millennia,
when you think about times, yeah. So yeah, and sometimes you need to move away physically, like I did.
Well, yeah, there's that as well. Yeah. And do you love living in Australia?
I love Australia. I love the country. I love the sunshine, the beaches. I love the endless opportunities of like new places to discover. It is, though, very far from my family. So I'm the only one of my own family here, you know. But in saying that, I think that all happened for a reason. Like, my intuition felt like this was the place to come. And I've never even been here before. And I decided to come and live here. I've never even been on holiday.
Did you know anyone here?
No.
Goodness, Michelle. So it was a heart calling.
I just had like you say, there's no light without dark, and the yin and the yang and whatnot. And I'd had a bit of a dark time, but necessary, you know. And I just pulled the Band-Aid off and went, you know what? I don't like how my life is right now. I don't like how I'm feeling. I know there's more out there. I know that there's more for me to enjoy. And I was just like, what have I got to lose? Let's just go. Let's just go do something.
Wow. And how long have you lived in Australia?
So I left when I was 26 and now I'm 35.
Okay, 9 years.
Yeah, getting on for.
Wow. And have you become an Australian citizen, or?
You know, that process is so long. I'm almost there. I feel like it's
wow.
Yeah, not even quite.
It's a long process for sure. Yeah.
It's a bit boring to talk about, so I won't go into it, but yeah.
No, I know, I understand completely. Our daughter-in-law is from Brazil, and she's been through it. She's now an Australian. But yes, it is a long journey. Yeah.
But you know what? I feel like intuitively now is probably the time to touch on this. You know how you mentioned the dark and going through the shit times to bring us out. I feel like maybe I could share a bit of that, because the most darkest time I did experience was when I was here, like maybe a
Wow.
year and a half or 2 years in.
Yeah.
Just all, and it was a big, massive sort of like hitting the ground moment. And the only way I could go was up. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I was literally hospitalized, nothing, going nowhere. Just like, stop, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was probably the most, like, I don't know if the word's profound, but through watching my dad pass away and experiencing, you know, hurt and family issues and my parents divorcing when I was young, all these different things that affected my life. I think
Yeah.
this particular one definitely, like, yeah, it's changed me, like my
Yeah.
perspective on life, my gratitude for life and everything. So it's just, yeah, and reminding myself of that sometimes, not going to the depths of it and the pain of it, but just reminding myself of, wow, you were there and you came through that. And it's like,
Yes.
so all these smaller things that we worry about, like, is my life unfolding at the right time? Am I doing the right thing? Da 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 da. It's like, hang on, are you breathing? Are you is everything's really okay? You know what I mean? You're
Yeah.
here, you're here. So it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
lot. So,
Yeah. I get it. I've been down on the floor many times. Yeah. So, you know, the first 20 years of my marriage, I didn't want to be there. And I had 2 children, a husband, and a business. And I used to go to sleep every night and pray that I had the courage to get in my car and drive until I ran out of petrol. And then I would walk along the side of the road and someone would pick me up and murder me so that I would be put out of my misery. So I actually don't think I've shared that on a video before, but that was my dark journey. And it's actually making me emotional thinking about it. And then in 2000, I was so unwell that all my body was shutting down. And it turns out that a couple of months later, I ended up in emergency, and turned out that I had a tumor on my ovaries and a multi-chambered cyst on the other ovary that had burst. So I had surgery, and then 6 weeks later, I got told I had thyroid cancer and I needed more surgery. So I had 2 major surgeries in 8 weeks. No, 10 weeks. And when I found out that I had cancer, I lay in bed and I said, you know what, God, I've changed my mind. I don't want to die. What do I have to do to live? And so that was that day was the turning point of my life. And
Make
basically
me
I was,
emotional.
yeah, it was, you know, 2000 was a
Oh,
pretty rough year.
yeah.
And so I set about changing my dialogue, my inner dialogue, and what I wanted for this physical body. And so I was able to turn it around, and I did the inner work, and I meditated for 2 hours a day, an hour in the morning, hour at night, because that was the answer I got. What do I need to do to change this? And it was the meditation. And just this year I learned stress management. I qualified as a stress management consultant, and basically meditation is one of the known things to bring your stress levels down. And at that time, my dad had died the year before, but I even went back to work after his funeral. Like, I did not grieve at all, but it must have just eaten away at me. And so I made a decision that I was going to live and that I wanted to live my best life, but I lost my voice. So the surgery, the tumor in my throat was on my vocal cord nerve, and he had to cut the nerve to get the tumor away. And so I lost my voice for a year. And when I went to the ear, nose, and throat, and he put a camera down, he said, "Oh, well, you can't speak because your left vocal cords only got 5% use. You may never speak again." And I left and I went, you know what? I will speak again. And I lay in bed again and I said, "God, if you give me back my voice, I promise I will share what I've learned." So I started speech pathology, speech therapy, and the speech therapist got me speaking again, and I did my homework every single day. And in 3 months, I was able to speak. So I use the air in my lungs to actually make my vocal cord work. So I use the muscles in my chest. And so sometimes I cut the ends off words, but I'm pretty much speaking, and my voice is much stronger now than it used to be. And so that was what I did to overcome. I did this. I had courage. I had the intuition to ask for help. I never lost hope, had faith, and I trusted. So what's on this card is actually how I live my life. And so I just kept going and learning more and developing more. And then this year, I said to Tash, "I think we have to start the Arakira apprenticeship." And she said, "Okay." And it's all just run smoothly. So that's how this has all come about. But like, that was 23 years ago that I had that. And then in 2012, I had been through a very stressful time in 2011. I thought I wanted to give all of this away. So I decided to become a copywriter and write copy for businesses. Oh my Lord, that is the most stressful thing that I've ever done. And I grew another nodule on my shoulder, on my collarbone, and I had cancer again. And so, I'm back down on the floor again, and I'm going, no, that clairvoyant reading that I had back in 1984, he said, if you don't do destiny, he gave me 2 destinies. He said, if you don't do the alternate destiny, you'll die at 53. So I was born in 1959. 2012 was my 53rd year. So I got cancer again. I had to prove in that next year that I was worthy to turn 54. And so a friend of mine gave me a book, The Hidden Science of Lost Civilizations. And in there, I read all about this quantum research, and I developed a couple of techniques, and I did them every single night. And when I went back to the cancer clinic in 2013, they said, we don't know what you've done in the last 12 months, but you've got the best bloods in 13 years, and you've reduced that nodule by 50%. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I did it for another year. I did the inner work. I did my visualizations. And when I went back to the clinic in 2014, they said, your bloods are even better, and you've reduced that nodule by another 40%. Keep doing what you're doing. And what I also did in 2012 was I quit my job. I haven't had a job, a job. I started my own business, and that's what I've been doing for the last, 11 years now. And in 2015, they discharged me from the cancer clinic.
Amazing. And it was all an inside job. It was not anything.
An inside job. I didn't have chemo. I didn't have radiation. It was all an inside job. And what I've been doing a podcast with Dr. Vishal Rao in India. And when I met Vishal, I didn't know that his area of expertise was the throat. He's a cancer surgeon and an amazing, amazing man. And when he heard my story, I knew he was really interested. And he said, Julie, you're an inspiration for me because you're a statistical outlier. And statistical outliers do the inner work. Like surgeons can cut stuff out. Doctors can give you chemo and radiation, but that's only that much of the journey. The people who overcome, they do the inner work. And so I'm passionate about that inner work. And you are as well, by the sounds of it.
Everything I'm listening to your whole story. First of all, it's like absolutely inspiring, fascinating, heartfelt, emotional, everything. Like, give this lady a microphone and put her on a bloody stage. But I can connect and relate to, again, I feel like you're my mirror, and different, same but different, like, because everything you're saying about the throat, I've had experiences with myself. Listening to you talking and saying how you couldn't speak, I can relate to that. And you're now saying about, you know, now that you're putting yourself out there, you are sharing your message and sharing your voice, and so am I because of that. And I feel like you've been through that for a reason, and it was so freaking hard and so painful and like so challenging for you. But without that experience, would you be who you are today and as passionate as you are and want to share? Would you have, you know what I mean? And it's like, so I can totally relate to that. Yeah, massively. And the feeling of when you were saying about your throat, you couldn't speak, I just could connect to that feeling of like helplessness in a way. Like, obviously you were determined and you were resilient to get better, but in that moment it feels, when you're at rock bottom or when you've been given that news or whatever it is, that's that moment of like, oh shit, you know, like, can I've got hopelessness, you know. But that that's temporary, and then
that's it. That's what I really want to share, Michelle, is that hopelessness is temporary. Because we are a reservoir of resilience.
Resilience is my word.
But we have to tap into it. Like the oil drill has to go down into the reservoir for the oil to spout up, for that resilience to come up. And you know, I'm teaching my apprentices, right? And a couple of the apprentices are trauma counselors, and they're using what they've learned already. And we're only like 3 lessons in. And the feedback from their clients is phenomenal. And one of the clients said, I want to do that every week. I haven't ever felt this happy from one of my techniques. I've got over 50. And as the teacher, like, I heard this story. You're not a teacher until you've taught somebody else to do what you do. And so to see these women in my apprenticeship school taking what I'm teaching them and getting their clients to have these phenomenal results is one of my proudest moments, because it's not something that I want to stay in me. I want it to be out in the world, that we all have the potential to create magic within our bodies, within our minds, within our souls. And it's powerful. People can do it. They just don't know how to do it. And if my role on the planet is to teach people how, then I'm fulfilling my purpose.
You sure are.
I just got a little tear rolling down my face. I'm very emotional. Yeah.
It is though, because you share, like, but sharing the hard times, obviously, like you say, you know, it connects the dots for everyone and gives people the bigger picture, because we connect with people when they show emotion. And for me, sometimes that's been something I've been working on as well, is showing vulnerability, you know. And even if we if, to be honest, if we cry, it's better because it's like people connect with the tears. Obviously, we don't want to fill the whole podcast or whatever with an hour of tears, but like, you know what I mean? It's, you take people on the journey of the storytelling. And from all the storytelling type things I've done, you know, like courses, and I've done like things where you get up in front of the audience and you're just encouraged to share. That, you know, when I show emotion and when I talk about the harder stuff and whatever, people are more connected to me in that moment anyway. And literally, like, listening to what you're sharing now as well is also very much sort of inspiring me to share maybe more depths of my story, because I literally touched the surface of the pain that I went through. And I know we don't want to focus on it, but I think for people to really understand my why I do what I do, why I'm so passionate about it, I think it's important to go there a little bit and to actually talk about that more. So I think that is actually something I want to do more of, is to talk about that.
Awesome.
And,
yeah. Wow. So we've been talking for nearly an hour. So why don't we wrap up? But I think that we could come back and have more chats.
Definitely.
And so what would be something that you would like to leave our listeners with that touches your heart? What's something that touches your heart?
Well, I've got a list, but let me just go inward a minute and think about what comes out. Feel about. I would say you're not alone, basically. I would say we are not alone when we feel, when we question, when we second guess, when we don't feel completely in alignment with ourselves and we worry. It's like knowing that not only you're not alone, that a lot of other people feel this, but also that the only guarantee is change, and we are in control of the way our life evolves and how we feel. So if we just shift our focus to, well, what can I do to feel good right now? What can I focus on that's going to make me feel good? And know that we are the creators of our own reality, and we have the power. We have the power of like a million sunshines within us. But if we don't realize that and know that, we will feel like a victim and we will stay down. And it's not about that. It's not about how many times you stay down. It's about how many times you've been down, but you rise back up. Not being afraid to share the dark sides of what you've been through in your life for fear that people may be, you know, repel you and think she can't help me, when in actual fact it's more the opposite, you know. It's the opposite to that. So that would be my little message for the end.
And where can people find you?
So they can find me on Facebook and YouTube mostly. I'm on Instagram as well. I need to get more on there, but
is it just as your name, Michelle Southan?
So on YouTube, I'm Michelle Louise Southan, and the same on
Southan.
Facebook.
So I've been saying your name wrong.
That's all right. It's not even relevant.
Yeah.
So they can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Michelle Louise Southan. Website michellesouthern.com. All sorts.
And what do you offer? Like, what's your offering to people?
So obviously we've got one-to-one readings.
That's
one of the main things, but I'm actually in the process of putting together a coaching program. And that is all around relationships and the relationship with ourselves, self-love, and others. So I will be sharing more of that as well. So I offer one-to-one coaching right now and one-to-one readings, but I will be creating more of a group type thing. As well as content for my YouTube channel. So.
Awesome. So I'm going to answer that question now. What did I say to you? What's something about your heart? What was the question?
Oh, you asked me a message you want to share that you feel deep in your heart right now that you just want to share to end the podcast.
Okay, so I'm gonna answer that question as well. And I couldn't even remember what I asked you, but I want to answer that question too.
A message for the audience, most heartfelt.
Yes. And it's along the same lines as yours. I also believe that wherever you are today, that will change. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily change on the outside, but you have the power to change it on the inside. And if I can inspire one person to change their inner world, because I know that the outer world will transform based on the frequency of your inner world, I would encourage you to do the inner work, to just see where you can shift that one thing that's going to make a difference. And you know what? One of the things that is going to help you do that is to get grounded, get outside with your shoes off and get on the ground for 20 minutes, half an hour.
2 hours.
The plants, get your hands in there. Yeah, 2 hours. Go for a walk. Get out in nature. Get grounded. It is going to make a difference, because when you ground, you remove inflammation out of your body. When the inflammation comes out of your body, you have more clarity in your brain and your emotions, and everything shifts when the inflammation goes down. And so that's my heartfelt message for this podcast. And I can't wait to speak with you again, Michelle. I think we've started a lovely friendship here.
Tip of the iceberg, I feel.
It is the tip of the iceberg. And I look forward to chatting with you again. And next time I will get you to pull a card and I will do a reading on one of your cards.
Definitely.
And see where we go. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You can find me on julielewin.com, and everything's there in the nav bar. You can find our certification page as well. And yeah, I look forward to reading your comments and seeing how we've inspired you. Thank you.
Thank you.